Hi, everybody. Hi. How is everybody? Let me say hi to everyone here. Heather Lynn, Elizabeth, JR, Carol, Leah, Darren, Bree, Evie, Amy, Shelling, January, Han, Lara, Helena, Carol, Robin, Angel Star, Dawn, Callie, Bangduna, and TLT, Namhar, Rachel, Elizabeth, Kez, or Orchid MSC, Lara, Pink Crystal, Liana, Melanie, Michelle, Claudia, Jean, um, Lakesha, HK, Personal Space, V Heart, CJ, Joyce, Marley, MJD, Celeste, Sandy, Bedon, Sue, Soul, Cindy E, and Cindy B. Hi. Hazel, Chloe, BTS Paved the Way, Me L, Charlie, JR, Anne Marie, Victoria, Kathleen, Jimin's Jams, BTS OT7, JJ, Kemuning, and Bedon. Hi, how are you guys? Were you able to get tickets for J Hope's concert? Hi, Kaz, Dodger Girl, Farah, Joyce. So, for those of you who are still looking for a ticket, we may have, courtesy of one of our Patreon members, we may have 14 tickets for Texas standing only. So, if you are interested, let me know. I think it's around $210, but that's for Texas. Got tickets to Chicago. Oh, that is so great. Um, so let me know if you're interested. Texas, 26th, I think. Yeah, 26th. So that's about 210. Someone was able to, but she will only get it. Not, I have nothing to do with it. It's all her. It's all her efforts. But it's actually Bangduna. I said it last time. So she will only get the extra tickets if she can sell all 14. I'm waiting for LA tickets. Okay. So I know a lot of you were waiting for me because usually before I opened Patreon, I would usually resell. I would buy and then resell it at cost on Twitter. But the priority now is in Patreon. So just join us there because we got some good tickets. So join us in Patreon if you want. And then I think I'm gonna go to both LA concerts. I'm just waiting for VIP. If I can get a VIP, then whatever I have now, I'll just pass on. Gandang tanghali from Alabang. Miss Fairlane, mabuhay po kayo. She said, good day, good afternoon. Tanghali is noon. So good noon, but it's kind of like good afternoon. From Alabang, and Alabang is a city in the Philippines. Hello, Nunez. I gave up seeing the resale prices. I know. So, what are you looking for, Juan? What state? Maayong hapon. What state, Juan, are you looking for? So, San Antonio and LA, Chicago. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, the one that Bang Luna may have is Texas. Anne lives. I'm interested in Texas. So you're gonna have to either join Patreon and let me know, or DM me on Twitter. DM me on Twitter. So that's one. We are trying to. This is a great community we have, by the way, on Patreon. So we're kind of like rehearsing on how we can actually have better chances in getting tickets for OT7. So we found some tricks on how to get. It's not a guarantee, but at least we kind of know like where there's more options for us to explore. So that's one. Second is that for yeah, so for the OT7, we're gonna explore other options on how to get tickets. We're still gonna try and get tickets the usual way, like Ticketmaster and whatever. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think Ticketmaster is going to crash. But yeah, I'm so grateful for the Patreon community you have built for us, Fairly. Oh, thank you. I am grateful for you guys. Doesn't Bang Luna rocks? I mean, this is all her idea. To be able, that's why we have like this tickets in Chicago. I mean, in Texas and um, LA. I'm still waiting for the tickets to sell in Philippines. According to Lara, they might start selling February. I think so. Yeah, I think so. They're gonna start. They're gonna start selling February. So now another thing is that I hope that you've been following J Hope's activities. I keep on getting so many errors when trying to buy. It was awful. Were you trying to buy? Well, I guess you're trying to buy Ticketmaster, right? Bang Luna is a legend. She's a legend. I totally agree. I would love to do that with OT7. Um, so they told me that dynamic pricing was actually on. It was just called premium pricing or platinum pricing or something like that. But that was dynamic pricing. So Ticketmaster is awful, super awful. They're awful. So I hope that you're um actually keeping track of J Hope because he's doing a lot right now. He's really like starting to get things started with his album. We know it's going to be March 7. And then he had a let me see if I can find it. So and then he had a show in Paris. One of the members of Patreon community actually was able to watch. And one of the things that she said is that the organization was horrible. There could have been more armies inside the venue, but they opened it late. Like things were really, really disorganized. But she did say that that it was almost all armies, like 90% of the crowd is armies. And she wasn't surprised. I don't know if you were able to watch J Hope's live after the show, but he did mention that at some point for like at least half the time he couldn't hear anything on his in-ear. What he was hearing were armies because the voices of armies were getting on his phone, so it was armies he was hearing in his in-ear. Isn't that great? There were so many armies since the energy was so high that he really couldn't get anything, so he couldn't hear anything else but armies. um so okay, so Bang Luna is actually discussing how she got the tickets. She bought a suite in Texas, so that's how she got the tickets. It's a great seat. This is just my tip. I don't know, so I've been to so many BTS concerts, right? And I've experienced horrible seats, good seats. I've experienced going to the barricade. I've experienced going in the middle of the GA standing. I've done sound check, everything. I've experienced all of it. But since I'm going with my mom this time, I'm not gonna go GA because she's not exactly that young. I don't think she can stand for that long. So I'm just going to get something that's seated. So I thought like a suite is actually perfect. So that's what I'm gonna try again for BTS. I will still try to get like the regular tickets. So if you want to follow us, if you want to join us in Patreon, go ahead, because now the priority it's not Twitter subscribers anymore. My priority would of course be the Patreon subscribers. Okay, I love that he said he could hear armies. Yeah, so Just a tip, if it's going to if you want to look for a suite, it's going to be very, very expensive. Like super expensive. It's probably going to be north of 1500 if you want a suite. If you want like the general VIP, you're probably looking at around 800. And then GA, you're probably looking at 200. I don't think it's going to go down below 200 inflation. Do you remember that? Um, so yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. Who's your mom's BTS bias? She does. I think it's Jungkook for her because she keeps on mentioning Jungkook. So I think it's Jungkook for her. But she's going to be. I'm going to watch both days of J Hope. I'm so excited. She's going to be with me on both days. If we get a VIP on the first day, we'll probably go VIP on the first day, and then I'll let go of the ticket that I have that is non VIP. It's a suite, and then on the second day, it's going to be a suite for us. Go on. I know she has a lot of competition for Jungkook. So I just need to buy. Robin Carr said Fairlane. Someone suggested we donate to World Central Kitchen in Jungkook's name since he is a cook, feeding people. I don't know who it was, but it seems like a worthwhile idea. World Central Kitchen. I will check what that is. World Central Kitchen. What I am actually going to do, I haven't actually told my Patreon subscribers this, but I'm actually going to donate to a dog shelter because of Bam, because of Jungkook, um, and V as well, Tani. So but I mean a kitchen a work well yeah feeding program would be great. Okay, so but I'm trying to get in touch with this dog shelter. They haven't responded to our emails, but that's the goal, to actually like help a dog shelter. Don't forget extra VIP parking and catering order. We do this for all of our K-pop concerts. Okay. Sun suites in San Antonio were 3,500, EM said. Yeah, Bang Luna didn't actually earn anything from it. She just really charged at cost. And I did the same thing. It's really just at cost, and I'm not earning anything from it. Okay, let us know about the dog shelter. I will donate also. Sure, thank you, Robin. I'm trying to get in touch with them. They have not responded. So I was looking at their website and I saw that they needed fans, like electric fans. So I asked my daughter, not my, well, she's not my biological daughter. I just call her my daughter. She's actually my niece, the one that I raised, to call them to see if they still need it. And I'll provide that. And then like rice to feed the dogs. And then I'm gonna talk with like their vet if they pay a vet to do so, to maintain the health of the dogs and whatever. I'll talk to that vet and see if I can donate directly to him, and then he can just do the work and stuff. But I'll get in touch with the dog first. Yeah, I'll do it in the name of BTS's dogs, their dogs. Bam, Tani, all of them. I thought Jungkook didn't have a problem while in the military. I don't think he does. I think all of those talks about Jungkook being bullied or whatever, I've mentioned this before, but I hope that, especially when it comes to medical records, because that is confidential, I hope that we don't even entertain listening to those things unless it is BTS or their agency that would actually talk about it formally, because a medical record is actually a confidential thing. I mean, just put yourself in in their position. Like personally, I don't want my medical record being discussed without my permission. I don't want it being distributed without my permission. And I honestly, if you get hold of my medical record, I would really hope and appreciate if you don't even look at it, because that's my medical record, right? So I guess it's the same, unless they say otherwise. I'm just going to assume that it's the same for Jungkook. That if he went to the hospital for whatever reason, unless he discloses that, we just need to respect it. and let him keep it to himself. Fairy Lane, Robin Carr said, Fairy Lane World Central Kitchen is Jose Andres, and they cook all over the world wherever needed. Hoan said, even if he is, how would anyone know? Jungkook, yeah. Soul said, yes, please, everyone. It's not by them or their team. Don't pay attention. They want clicks, and you give them money through your attention. And Liv said that if it doesn't come from them, just ignore it. Yeah, please ignore it. Um, yeah, just put yourself in their position. Like if you get hold of something, like if other people get a hold of something confidential about you, you would appreciate and you would want those people to not even look at that thing, right? Because that's confidential. You would appreciate and would want them to not pay attention to it, return it to you, or burn it if necessary. But the last thing you would want is for people to be speculating about it, looking at it. So let's afford him the same courtesy. So unless it is coming from them, let's not talk about it. I know people are going to say, but what if he needs help or whatever? Um, Jungkook has a loving family. He has a lot of great friends that I am sure he would want to go to first. That's one. Second is, even if whatever is happening in his life, it would still have to be his call on whether he would want other people to know about it. So know your boundary. Let us know our boundaries. um Again, put yourself in their shoes. If you were in their shoes, you would want your privacy to be respected, no matter what that is. And we hear this all the time, like people who are going through something, and then you just sort of impose yourself on them, and they're what do they say? It's like, but it is my choice, and whether or not I want to ask for help, it is my choice to respect that. So we need, more than anything, we do need to respect that. So that is the answer to this question. Like, does he have a problem? Unless he talks about it, then we do not talk about it, because that's his personal problem, if he has any. Okay. All right. So on a lighter note, just I found this so because J Hope went into this uh, the AP headquarters in Switzerland, and I was told I really couldn't relate because I don't know what this is. I'm not a watch person. I just know Rolex. That's all I know. And I know it because in the advertising world, when I was there was like a project that we did for them. But so he went to visit, and they've never had any kind of ambassadors. So people are assuming that there is some sort of a brand deal going on, either that or that there is a special project, that he's going to be doing a special project. And I was checking the price of these watches, and my god, it's like I can buy a house with with that. So Larry said it is expensive. Fire Butterfly said false, they had ambassadors. um Miles and Apple. Hi Kathleen, who's Apple? Who's Apple? And Miles, who are they? BTS Forever 7, won't be surprised if he will be an ambassador or maybe an ad deal. It could, yeah, it could either be an ambassadorship or a brand deal. So, but it was just so funny to me that, like, my God, these watches are expensive. Oh, I have it. So I was like, I only have like a $40 watch. It's a fossil. So I'm like, I can't relate. I can't relate all in the to this whatever. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy if he does a brand deal. I would be very happy for him. He could be a sponsor for his tour. It could be the sponsor for his tour. So we know that Capital One, for example, when they sponsored, so they said that the Fire Butterfly said that Miles and Apple are BL actors from Thailand. So they were brand ambassadors for this watch company. And so if I was going to, as you know, for Taylor Swift, her sponsor was actually Capital One, and they made a lot of money with that because But it was a sweet deal because they gave Capital One account holders first dibs on the tickets. So everyone just opened a Capital One bank account. Um, so so yeah, so they were like that was so they got a lot of customers from that. I know for Beyonce it was Tiffany, so she was wearing their custom jewelry. So they custom made jewelries for her, but she was wearing them in almost the entirety of the concert. It would always be. So I hope that this is something that will push through for him. I mean, let's face it, he is the most fashionable. He is the most fashion forward in BTS. So, or at least for me, for my taste. Actually, I his fashion, like his aesthetics, isn't something that I would go for. But I just recognize just how good he is when it comes to fashion. So he deserves it. I don't even wear watches. I use my phone. I used to not wear watches because I was just using my phone. But then I decided to sort of be less dependent on my phone. I'm trying to cut down on my screen time. So there are, like, I would avoid actually looking at it. So if I just need the time, I just look at my watch. I do have another watch. Wait, I'm going to brag. I have a Swatch. It's like, I don't know, $35. They should, the Capital One, they should I could get tickets. I do have Capital One, so I would get tickets too as well. So I hope they sponsor BTS. Swatch for my 90s baby. I don't know, I think this was a gift because I don't remember ever buying it. So this must be a gift. I told you guys I'm not a very materialistic person. So I probably got this as a gift for someone. But it's nice, like, because I love blue. It's my favorite color. So Casio watches or SK military wear. The IG image size is perfect. Okay, so let's before we get into uh like controversial things. Let's do something. Mickey, hi Mickey, what's the news, please? We're just about to start. We were just talking about J-Hope. Let's talk about fan songs of BTS. I'm starting to go back to some of the old content of BTS in the hopes that I could catch up before they actually come back. So one of the things that struck me is the amount of fan songs that they've written, like songs that they've written for armies. And as you know, RM, right after the release of an album, he would always go live and he would explain some things about the album. He doesn't really, one of the things that I observed when he does this is how brilliant he is in giving people, he's teasing people on what the song is about, like how it came about, but he would never give the entire story, which allows armies to actually put their own interpretation on the song. So I thought like he would give some interesting tidbits on how it was created, how it began, or some observations that he has about the song, but never like the entirety of the song. So that only gives you an idea on how great he is as a speaker. So I love his album behind. Yeah, definitely. I love his behind that discussion album. So they'll be back in less than 5 months. I am very, very excited and I love this artwork. I don't know who did it, but I just love this artwork. It's so cute. Okay, so one of the first songs that they've ever written was actually written by RM and it was never formally released. It was a gift to armies for the 2016 um Festa. So I don't know if you know this or for baby armies out there, but this was specifically written for armies and it was released only during Festa. And it was performed during Festa. It was written by RM and it was sang by RM. And Jungkook. One of the few songs that one of the few songs that where RM actually sang. And I love it because they made it a point to mention both boys and girls. So I think it was a conscious decision on RM's part to make sure that they acknowledge not just their female fans but also their boy fans, the male fans that they have. So it was produced by RM. They performed it for they released it in the 2016 Festa. I feel one of the things that actually I now want to happen is for them to sing some of their memorable songs that they've written just for armies. I think all of them have written one for armies, or at least all of them have released something they just released during Festa. So it was just for armies, not really for public consumption. So I hope that this is one of the songs that they release because it's such a beautiful song. Of course, 2 and 3 for baby armies out there.
Ben Sean, to tell you this. I was supposed to tell you this.
It was
Ben Sean.
it was it this one has a very touching story because this came about after, I believe, the Red Bullet tour. And they were so excited because it was like the first world tour that they had. It was a small scale. I mean, compared to the stadiums, it was a small scale tour. But right after the last day, they went online, and several fandoms actually came together to trend a hashtags against BTS and against armies. So they wrote this song to sort of comfort armies, even though they were just as hurt as armies with what happened. So I think I've mentioned it. I've been their fan since 2013. So 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, because I was here, I was really not aware of all this like hatred towards like this fan wars. I did not have any idea about this. So when they released this song and some people explained it to me, I was like, huh? I don't like, I have no idea this was happening. The thing is that they did because the hashtag was actually, and the people that were posting it were actually Koreans. So they wrote this song specifically to comfort armies because of that incident, even though they were just as hurt about it. So they were so discouraged because of that. Okay. Another favorite song, fan song the song that they've written just for BTS, for Army, is Magic Shop. Okay. So this is actually a this is so special, and the way that they've written it was so consciously for armies because there were many lines in the song that they've previously said those lines either in a tweet or in a ment, or it was a reference to their old song. So for example, the line "I do believe in your galaxy" was actually a line that RM's posted. He tweeted this on Twitter back when they were still using Twitter. So there it was, and there were many instances. So another one would be also an RM post on Twitter, and he in the line in the song is, "I told you that that would win." He posted back in 2015, "I and you of mine will win in the end without anyone knowing, so naturally." So it was like something like, "You and I will win in the end, very naturally," something like that. And he used that line in the song. Another is the verse of J Hope, excuse me, when he said, "Like roses when blooming, like cherry blossoms when fluttering, like morning glories when fading." It was actually a line that he wrote in his thank you note, in the Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1. So and then he reused it for this song. And then for August D or for Suga, He reused this in the last. He used this in the last, sorry, and that is and my greed, which used to be my weapon, became my leash that chokes me. So you know just how much thought they actually put into this, even though it was just really meant for armies. Now, the magic shop is actually it's a trick. It's a healing or therapy tool used by therapists. And what they ask you to do is basically exchange whatever trauma that you have. So, for example, if you're angry towards your parents, they'll ask you to surrender that in exchange of something else. Like, what do you want to have? So, for example, I want to have peace of mind. What do you want to give in exchange of that? So you can say, like, I want to give my anger towards my parents in exchange of peace of mind. And the surprising aspect of this method is that it's actually about control. And trauma, usually in psychology, it's about being a victim. Like, trauma is a victim tool. Magic shop, the this strategy used by therapists is actually a is about control. So from being a victim to becoming the controller. That's essentially what the tool does. So I thought it was nothing short of brilliant for them to do this. I've done this before, but as far as I remember, I actually remember Jimin saying that he was the one who came up with the idea, and he was the one who proposed it to Big Hit. I will just have to look for that clip. I remember it was an interview when he said it. Like, he actually went to approach Big Hit and said, I have an idea. Although it was Jungkook who produced, he was the lead here. He was the lead producer, the lead writer, but it was actually Jimin's idea. This magic shop concept was actually Jimin's idea. I will look for that clip and I will share it with you once I find it. So I am so I'm just so jealous of the people who actually got to listen to it live. He sang it in the Global Citizen Festival, and I think it's the only time he's ever sang it. And I'm just so I couldn't go to New York at that time because of work, but so a lot of people were talking about this song not being an army song. So people were insisting that this is not for armies. But if you look at the name of the song when he uploaded in SoundCloud, it's actually Thank You Army 2020. So there is no doubt that this is for Army because that's how he named it. Now, a lot of the solos are insisting that, again, it was that Big Hit just forced Jungkook to actually change the title, but this is not supposedly for armies. But whatever, let's not think about them. I just thought it was funny. This is one of my favorite tracks that he's ever written and he's ever produced. I just like the melody and the flow of the entire thing. Um, and there is just so much in the simplicity of his words, like laughing together, crying together, the simple emotions. Perhaps they were everything to me. When would it be when I meet you again? Because it just reminds me so much of the people that came into my life and went, like came and went, right? Like, because I don't like remembering people and being sad about it. So this reminds me of the beautiful memories that I share with those people. And wondering, like, sometimes just life happens, right? Like, people come and go. Um, so it just happens. So it's sort of an ode to the people that you've met in your life. And this also displays just how good really Jungkook is as a songwriter and as a producer. So I know he mentioned several times that he likes singing other people's songs. Like, he just wants, like, if people give him a song, it's a good one. It's like, yeah, I'll sing it. But I hope that in the future he will continue producing and writing because he's an absolute genius. And then Pied Piper, which is one of the fun. Really think that it's one of the funniest songs that they've ever, or at least it's funny to me.
지금 알고 있잖아.
So this, the Pied Piper, is a it's actually a story about this guy who went into a village because they had rat problem, and so he told everyone that he was going to solve the problem, uh, and he just needs to get paid. And so what he did was play his flute, and then he would Bang Luna said Arm's verse in Pied Piper is so hilarious. It is like one of the, okay, I'll get there. But so the story of Pied Piper, so he went and he played his flute and all the rats came out, and they followed him to a swamp or somewhere. And so no more rats the next day. But then when he, after the job, he went and he started collecting money, payment for what he did, for his services. They didn't want to pay him, so they said the next day he actually came back, played his flute again, and all the children followed him, and they disappeared, never to return again. There were only three children that were left. One was deaf, so the child did not hear, the flute playing. The other one was blind, so the child did not know where to go, and I think the other one was just like a slow child and didn't have any idea on what was happening. So I think it was like Pied Piper is kind of like BTS. Like if you do your part in your life, your reward is going to be BTS or something like that. But I thought, yes, so Bang Luna said like his verse, RM's verse is one of the funniest there. When he's, because everything that he said is so on point. Like, stop for now, you can theorize about MVs later. Like, how'd you know? You know that BTS fan armies are actually doing that. You already have a lot of photos of me in your room anyway. It was like, thank you for calling us out. Why are you calling us out for this? What do you mean just an hour? A year or two will be gone in a flash. This song is my reward for you. You're good. It was like, oh my god, like just count on RM to just like call out armies for everything that we do. Because it's true, like we spend hours and hours like theorizing what's happening, like looking at the videos, the music videos, and just picking up clues. So they must know. So as early as then, I well, we now know that RM already has like a snitch in army Twitter. So whoever that is, the Pied Piper, Elizabeth said the Piper drove the rats into the river when payment when provided. He said, "Hold my flute." Yeah, so I thought, but it's also a very witty song because it's like it could have been a very simple song, but he managed to have a creative foundation, right? Like it's such a Pied Piper. The story is a beautiful story. It's a cute story, and a little horrific as well. But he managed to get like a creative foundation for something like this, for a song for armies that is not really meant to be very very serious. It's just like I think it feels like this is him joking around, like this is BTS joking around with armies, like just like could you stop, just live your life for a little bit or something like that. But he managed to actually get like a really beautiful story and use that as a creative foundation. Count on army to do this, RM to do that. Jimin has written several songs for armies, but Closer Than This is my favorite. I don't know really if which one I like more, the melody or the lyrics, but it's really
어떤 거야? 때론 넘어져 울기도 하고 설정
Um, so I love, this is my favorite line. Do you remember it too? The first time we met, we were shy and awkward back then. Looking back, suddenly we've made it all the way here. It's a journey we've walked through together. Because I feel like, one of there's one of those, oh, you like letter. That's your favorite. This is my favorite. I love everything that he has written, and I specifically love the songs that is written for armies. But I just love this line because there are moments, I guess because I'm like ancient, I'm so old, like there are moments really when I just pause and look and ask myself, like, how the hell did I get here? I was just 10 years old yesterday. What happened? So that line is kind of that for me. Like sometimes I just wake up and just wonder what happened? Like where did all those decades go? And he got it perfectly. He was able to succinctly articulate it for me. You are not old. I'm so ancient. I totally remember the first time I met BTS. Mary R. What? When were you? When did you debut in BTS? Leia said Pied Pipers about stop obsessing about us too late. Okay, love how on point this song is. Yeah, super. And of course, for youth, and because I know your favorite part, let's watch it. That's your favorite part, yeah? It's everybody's favorite part. And I also love before I get into for youth makes you cry. But before I get into the lyrics, I just love how whenever they do this part, it feels like the reaction that they have is so them. Like if you look at Suga, if you look at Suga, it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Okay, we're gonna do this. And then if you look at Jimin, it's like he's so into it. Like it reveals so much of their personality in this part of the song. Okay. So this song is also an ode to many of their past songs and things that they've said before. Like Non Dong, I don't know if you guys have been to Korea or if you have, if you've actually visited their very first their old building, but it's actually in Non Dong. If you're in my Patreon, I posted videos and photos of when I visited their old building and their old dorm. So whenever I go there, the restaurant where they used to eat when they were still trainees, it has the best bibimbap. And I love bibimbap. So I always go there to eat bibimbap, and my niece, I sometimes call my daughter, she loves she loves beef. I don't eat beef and I don't eat pork. So I love the bibimbap and the samgyetang. So if you walk about 10 minutes, I guess 10 or 15 minutes from where they eat, that would be their building. And now the building has a lot of like writings on the wall. I think it was bought by somebody like a celebrity, and I think he's going to sell it or whatever. So try to make your way into that building. um you can't go in, you can only take pictures from outside the building, and then very close to that would be their dorm. I also went to their second dorm and their third dorm. The third dormitory, it's now a cafe, and you can actually go in. And then they marked each of the rooms, so you know which is RM's room, RM and Te, Suga, Suga and Jin's room, J Hope and Jimin's room, and then Jungkook's room. Jungkook is alone in his room. So go there. Anyway, so the very first one is in Nonyondong. Okay. Shelling said, I know Taeyong came up with that step. Oh, it's Taeyong is all over that step. I'm pretty sure he did it. Okay. And then the 1, 2, 3 is an ode to the very first fan song that they've ever written, which is 2, 3. Okay. So it's okay when I say 1, 2, 3, forget it, erase all the sad memories. And then also this part I thought is absolutely brilliant. So this part that says a friend I'm thankful for, my pride, my heaven and love. This is an ode to her, their song Her, because in that song there's a maybe I'm there's a there are lines, maybe I'm your truth and lie, maybe your love and hatred, maybe I'm your enemy and friend, your heaven and hell, sometimes pride and embarrassment. And then in this song, they actually chose the positive ones, and that's what they equate to armies. So I thought it's like very, very smart. And then of course home, which J Hope explicitly said is about armies. Okay. So in the we know that this is about armies because he specifically said it in their press conference when they did the map of the soul persona. He said the song talks about, J Hope was the one who said it. The song talks about home, which is where the fans are and where our hearts are, where we want to come back to when things are hard and we feel lonely. We get strength from the people who love us and wait for us. So we know that it is actually an army song. And then probably my favorite, Bulletproof Eternal, um, because it really is the completion of Bulletproof Part 1 and Part 2. And I love the support, the second voice of Jimin in that part. Like I think it's like one of the best that they have ever written. I also feel that it's so smart of them to make the part 3 a slow one. There BTS almost always does everything in threes. It's always a trilogy for them. Some of their best works have always been a trilogy. So I felt it was perfect that the Bulletproof series is actually also a trilogy, and the last one they did just before they went to the military. Well, not right before, but before they went to the military. So, and I thought it was a good closing to the Bulletproof series. Um, I don't think they're going to do a part 4. Elizabeth is asking, Fearlane, do you have a degree in music theory? I just have a degree in BSAB in Bangtan music. Okay. There's a specific line there, we're not afraid anymore, which is a reference to Bulletproof Part 2. Okay. So those are my favorites. I know that there are more, and as I've said, almost every BTS member has already written their own fan song. Um, I thought it would be. I mean, I would love to. Mayu, yes, Mayu. That's a lot. I know, like Microcosmos. I know that's another one. So there's a lot. They've written so many for BTS for armies, and one thing I've realized is that I'm also a fan of many other groups. Um, I'm a fan of TVXQ, Shiny, even Shina. I love Shina. These are the boy groups, and then like TXT and a lot more other contemporaries. I even like EXO. I know that there's a lot of people who don't like EXO because of their fans, but I actually like EXO. And then other girl groups, of course. My favorite, as you know, is Twice, and then Mamamoo, but it's fast becoming Le Seraphim and I'll It. I also love Mo Meow. Sorry. Meow. And I also like Itzy. I love Espa. Now, but one thing I know because I closely watch their discography is that there has been no other group, probably no other band in history who has written this many songs for their fans. Like nobody can match their discography for armies, for their own fandom. Nobody can come close. So that in itself, I think, speaks volumes um, of who they are as musicians and how they really see their fans. Like a lot of people, you hear it a lot from other artists, from other groups, that they value their fans, that they're most important, the most important for them is to make their fans happy. But BTS actually, they put their money where their mouth is. So when they say that when RM said in that press conference that 50% of the success of BTS is armies, they mean it. They really mean it because no one has really done this many for their fandom. Um, and it's not just like an ordinary song. It's not like something that they will just sing or whatever. Or just a simple thank you. It's not. There's like every song that they pump out for armies, there's always a different meaning to it. There's always a different message. There's a different tonality for them to be able to write something like Pied Piper and then go to Microcosmos and then go to Bulletproof the Eternal. And like that, the variation and the range of the emotions and the message that they're actually putting into their song, it speaks volumes of how important armies is for them. And this is, I know a lot of people are going to say like, oh, this is army again being delusional, you're just a fan. And that is true, we're just a fan. And I think that is the key why it works for armies and for BTS, because armies are very well aware that we are nothing but fans. We are not their mothers or girlfriends or whatever. We're fans. They have a product, their music, their merchandise, their concerts, they sell and we buy. That is because we know that, like, we are grounded in that reality. We don't have any kind of illusion that we have any other role in their life but fans. So I think, and but the special thing is that the gratitude that they feel, because everything that they have been able to do in their life has been made possible because of our support. So they do things they don't have to, right? And that is appreciated. So there is those people that have the delusion that they are the girlfriend of BTS members, or that they have more right than they actually really have. Those aren't, I don't consider those armies. They're just toxic fans. Maybe not even fans, they're just toxic people. But real armies, we know our boundaries. We know very much the fact that we are fans, and that what we get from them is quality music, quality art, and entertainment. And in I feel like in it's not easy to be happy in this world, right? So if you find something that will really make you happy, and for me that's BTS, I'm like, why not indulge, right? This is not exactly an ideal world we're living in. So if you find something like that, why not support it? um okay. Bang Luna said, hey, we're also their marketing department worldwide. Right. We are their brand ambassadors, correct. JR, to support them is our purpose. And the sincerity, Sida said, and their sincerity is tangible. And lives, I think there's a mutual respect between BTS and ARMY. It's quite lovely. Yes, it is. I think that's the word that I was looking for, respect. They don't just look at us. Sure, they know that we are fans, and we know we are fans and that they are the celebrities, but there's a certain level of respect for what we have been able to give them, because at the end of the day it's our money that makes all of the things that they're doing possible for them, right? If we don't buy, then nothing's going to happen in the business. And I think they're very, very appreciative of that, that we have, that the entire fandom has made it possible for them. They share things about their non-music lives and selves that is unique, however, right? Agree. KAG said, we are living in reality knowing army support all the members. We have our bias, but don't go overboard. Yeah, that's why it pisses me off. Like, especially Jungkook is the one that's really outspoken, probably because he gets, I don't know, but on his lives, like, he would really say, like, stop calling me or stop sending me food. Like, that's so irritating. You shouldn't even be making an effort to know where they live, right? I mean, that's just MZ Get Real. I found your channel a few months ago. I really love your passion for BTS. My heart adopted Korean sons. Thank you, Auntie Army. Thank you. Angel Star said, then BTS comes out with shirtless pictures of the army. I think they know. They're like, let's tease armies. I remember, when was that? Like, they went live, and J Hope said that let's go live. And then after like 30 seconds, let's turn it off. So to confuse armies. And that's what happened. Like, everybody, all armies went on Twitter. It's like, what happened to their live? They were like on for 30 minutes and then for 30 seconds. And then they went off. Like, I think those silly light moments, I think those things make it more enjoyable to actually be supporting them. DIY, another army channel. You guys know Bora City. Nunez 0923. Yeah, so just to address DIY, yeah, so a lot of people here mentioned Bora City, High Boy. There's another one. There's another one that you keep on mentioning. Yeah, so they watch them a lot. A lot of the people here actually watch their are subscribed to their channels too. I don't watch them just because I don't want to feel insecure because they seem to be so good. But I have nothing against them. I'm supporting them. I'm behind them. I'm pushing, rooting for them. V lied about channel chapter two about the shirtless pics. There, Eva. Okay. What about Cat's? Joanne said is asking, what about Cat's Eye? I will forever support Cat's Eye, primarily because the girls are so talented. That's one, full stop. And then second is the leader is actually a Filipina, Sofia. So they have a So Light TBS. That's the other one. So I have Cat's Eye has a soft spot in my heart, but I just think like they just need to build a little bit more of their identity, because like for me it's easier to support groups when I know who they are. Like for example, Twice, I know who exactly their identity, who they are, what they do. It's easier. Of course, BTS, it's so clear to me who they are as performers and as artists. And even I'll it um even 21, like they it's so clear, the brand is very clear for me, so it makes it easier for me to sort of place them creatively in my brain. I think Cat's Eye is still in the process of developing their identity, and it's very very early, but I think they'll get there. And I think once they get there, I'll be like more inclined to keep on talking about them. Also, I'm not knocking on artists who don't write their own songs, because they're simply are performers, like they just want to perform, and that's okay. But admittedly, I get more into artists who participate in the creative development of their art. Cats, I need more songs, honestly. They do. Carol Faye, are you sure showed some comfortable how comfortable the Macne line is shirtless. Pinayon say, is Cat's Eye going to be more global oriented, so they won't do concepts like K-pop groups? Even if they are a global group, they still need a concept. Every group has a concept. It's just that it's more pronounced in K-pop because it's a buzzword among fandoms. But like if you go and look at different groups, um Destiny's Child, they have their own concept. What do you call this? The British girl group. What's the name of that group? The British girl group. 5 people. Spice Girls. They have a very distinct personality. So they do have a brand. They have a concept. Um, Spice Girls, s- girl power, right? You know that they're all about girl power. Destiny's Child is about women power, sexy women power. That's what Destiny's Child is. Um, so they still have a very, very clear concept. It's just that it isn't usually talked about as it is in K-pop. So for Cat's Eye, they just need to they will develop that. I'm sure they have it. It's just a matter of taking them there. One thing you do need to remember, need to observe with agencies like Hybe, SM Entertainment, and even JYP. The reason they keep on sending their groups in university performances, small concerts, in every place where they can perform, is to actually further train the group. Because it's one thing to train in the studio and then do your debut, except but and then it's another to actually be performing in front of if in front of an audience. So the best way to improve their stage presence, develop their identity on stage, is to actually put them there. That's why if you would observe like Le Seraphim, Twice. They did a lot of university shows. They would go into every opportunity to perform. Music shows, anything. They'll send their group there in the beginning. That is because they're trying to develop the group's skill in performing. Okay. And you do that even for people, like for experts. So I'm in PR. If I have a client who has no experience doing interviews, talking to the press, talking to people, one of the tricks that we do is we send them to small podcasts, small interviews, less known journalists for an interview, because that's their practice. And for us, it's like it's easier if you fail there, if you mess up that interview because it's a small podcast or it's a small program, or that journalist doesn't really have a lot of pull. More important for us is to make them get used to, train them in actually doing interviews. It's the same for celebrities, for musicians. You send them to all of these small performances to get them used to performing, to develop their identity, to know how to ad lib, to work the crowd. And then once they're ready, then you put them towards the path where you really want them to go. And that is more pronounced with Twice and with Lesser of Him. So Twice, the strategy was to conquer Korea first and then slowly put them in a bigger and bigger and bigger stage. Same thing for Lesser of Him. They went into every university show. They went to perform in every music show because they're trying to get the girls to develop their identity on stage. And this year, I am sure you're going to see Lesser of Him going more into the Western market. Big Bang is BTS's father. No, they're not. Okay. I know this is out of topic. This is Trisha asking. Um, but aren't BTS members getting any Solal holidays? Those who are in the military. Um, okay. One second. The I think they are getting that, but it is up to the, like, you have the option to not take it. You have the option to not take it. I think JK, I think they're back in the military. They were on vacation, but I think they're back. I would love to have a job like yours. Are you accepting applicants for an assistant? Assistant, which job? Remember, people, I have a full-time job. I have a small business, a very small business, and then I have this. So we had a vacation too on the weekend. They are shoveling snow bites. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to something more controversial this time. How about that? So there are two lawyers who actually had on YouTube who discussed the case of New Jeans. So I'll summarize what they said. So and then I'll give my 2 cents. So the first part will be really a summary of what they said. So don't come after me, okay? I'm just relaying to you what they said. All right. Okay. So this is him. That's the guy.
A legal battle of unprecedented scale in the history of K-pop idol
Okay.
group. A legal battle of
So if you want to watch him, I will leave the link of his channel in the description box once this is uploaded. So basically what he dealt with, what he talked about in his episode, is whether or not the complaints of New Jeans, if they are valid or not. One said, "Oh, I'm tired of New Jeans." Yeah, I mean, for me it's just corporate drama, and I'm going to give my 2 cents on this after this entire thing, so I'll do the summary first. So one of the complaints of New Jeans in terminating the contract is that they felt disrespected, specifically on the phrase new arc, meaning they get rid of, well, that's the term new arc, in the hybe confidential report that was leaked. So the lawyer said this is not a valid grounds for termination because you don't really know what that means. Like, what does that mean? What's new art? Like, there's no specific interpretation. And if there is no interpretation, then you can't use it as a ground. You're going to have to come up with an unquestionable interpretation first. And then if that interpretation is actually a violation of your right, then you can use it as a ground to terminate the contract. There are two types of ambiguity. So that's what it is. The term is ambiguous. Legally, there are two types of ambiguity. One is when the uncertainty is obvious from the wording itself. So for example, a contract states two conflicting terms. So for example, the contract states that if you're pretty, then we will pay you, but if you're not pretty, we will pay you. Like, what is it? Like, these are two opposing terms and they're both in the contract, right? um that is what they call patent ambiguity. Latent ambiguity is when there are external factors that makes a certain terminology unclear. So for example, there is a contract that states, or for example, a will, and the property is left to John. So I bequeath my house and lot to John, but there are three Johns or four Johns in this family, and it's not clear which is the John that you're talking about. That is latent ambiguity. So in this specific term, in this specific instance, is latent ambiguity because you don't know what that term means. So it's like troll alert. Who is the troll? Next, um, lack of action regarding another. Next is lack of action regarding a statement by a manager from another label telling Hani. Okay. Okay. Solved. Okay, going back. So the second one is lack of action regarding a statement by a manager from another label telling Hani ignore her. So the thing is that Adore has no authority over an employee of another company. And this specific manager who supposedly, who allegedly said ignore her, referring to talking to I'll it and referring to Hani, is supposedly an employee of another company. So specifically of B Lift Lab. So Adore cannot control what B Lift Lab is going to do with their employee, right? So um, you're asking another company to do something for you. You can't do that. Now, and this is what is glorious when it comes to precedent. The court already said Hybe and Adore are two different companies, right? That means Adore cannot demand Hybe to fire that employee who is employed by another company. So, because the court solidified that Hybe and Adore are two separate companies, and that was the entire grounds for them giving Mama Roach the injunction to favor her in the injunction case. They said to Hybe, well, Adore and Hybe are two separate companies, and she may be sabotaging Hybe, but she's not sabotaging Adore. So you can't fire her as the CEO of Adore because she's not touching Hybe. I'm sorry, she's not touching Adore. She's taking care of Adore. She's trying to sabotage you, but not Adore. So the precedent has been established that these are two separate companies. So now Adore and Hybe can use that to their advantage and say, according to you, which is the court, we are two separate companies. So Adore can't demand Hybe to ask another company, who's also a separate company, to fire an employee. So that's not grounds for a termination of contract. Next is the insufficient response to inappropriate comments by a member of Hybe's PR team. So they said that this PR person was disrespectful to whatever, and to New Jeans. And this lawyer said Hybe and Adore took appropriate measure to address an issue. And stating an inappropriate comment, like saying something inappropriate or disrespectful, does not justify a contract termination. It can justify a suspension, it can justify a warning, but it does not justify a contract termination. Next, unauthorized release. This is another reason that New Jeans is giving the court, giving everybody why they feel that the contract is already automatically terminated. Unauthorized release and failure to remove New Jeans trainee photos and videos. And the lawyer said Hybe and Ador did not release those videos. It was another company, and Hybe and Ador actually asked that company, those media outlets, to take out those posts, and they didn't. So but High Benador already gave, they did their part. They asked the media outlet to take down the post. um and then the term push out is another issue that Nugents raised. They said that they used it to undermine our achievements, but the lawyer said there is no clear definition of what a push out is. It's not a legal term. So nobody knows what it is. Second is that there are standard sales programs used by different companies. So just because it is a standard sales program or marketing program, it doesn't mean that it's undermining your achievement. It's just a standard program that companies are using. Okay, last is that they are disputing, well, second to the last, they are disputing the dolphin kidnapping crew director who complained about the content getting taken down. And the lawyer said this is a business decision. You have no right, just as an artist, to demand what should go up and what shouldn't go up. That is an overreach. The company will decide what they will publish and not publish. And then last is the demand. They are actually, oh, sorry, this is second to that, as demanding all measures to protect Nugent's identity and ensure that their activities will not be disturbed. And Nugent's has so far continued all of their activities uninterrupted, with no disruptions, with the full support of Hybe and Adore. So they can't complain that their activities is being interrupted, because they're not. They're actually being given more work. They're the ones that are refusing it. And that's important later. And then last, this is the real last item in their reasoning for terminating the contract, is advocating for Min Hee-jin to return as CEO of Adore. And the lawyer said that is not the decision. Who is going to be the CEO is not the decision of the artist. It's the decision of the company. So according to his assessment, none of the clauses or reasons that Nugents provided to terminate their contract is actually valid. Okay, now another YouTube channel interviewed a lawyer to talk about this entire issue. It's actually, I think it's about an hour or an hour and a half long, and I'll just give you some of the major points. I am not done watching it, but I'll give you several of the major points that I have so far gotten from it.
어떻게 해서 뒤로 좀 더 뒤로 가시고 제가 좀 앞으로 가면 맞을 거예요.
He's a journalist, and he has been targeted by Mama Roach before as well. But I will put the link in the description box once this is uploaded, so that you can go to his channel and watch the actual interview. There is an English sub already. So one of the questions that he asked is there an issue with Min Hee-jin and New Jeans retaining the same law firm? Because they retain the same law firm. So the lawyer said, yes, there is a conflict of interest, and the court can actually say you shouldn't be doing this. But it's not an outright no. It's not an automatic violation of any kind of rule. It's more like ethically they shouldn't have done that. Okay, so it's not a clear violation. He also said that at some point, Hyde may acknowledge a breakdown in the relationship of trust and just file a civil lawsuit for damages, meaning that Hyde should probably, or Adore should probably just, at some point, they will just give up and say, this is beyond, the relationship is beyond repair. Just pay us for the damages. And honestly, I think that's what they're going to go for already, but I'll go to that later. So far, these are the things that the lawyers stated in the interview. Next, he said that Hybe doesn't need to demand 600 billion won right away from the start. He said that. He said that they can just do a partial claim in the beginning and then later on claim more. He was asked, so the interviewer asked the lawyer, like, if you took the case, how much damage are you going to charge, are you going to ask for? And he said 200 billion won per member. So five members. It's like, wow. So that's what he said he was going to charge. Like, I will charge 200 billion per member. That's the damage that he will be claiming for. But he's saying like it doesn't have to be everything at the same time. They can do a partial claim, and then if they renew their activities, because they're going to, once they set a settlement, they reach a settlement, then the five girls will be allowed to resume their activities. So then Hybe can then ask for more, especially if they start making money. Okay. um the reporter also asked, can Min Hee-jin successfully exercise the put option? And he said, this is the summary of what he said. Initially, I thought, this is him talking, there was about 50% chance of success. Okay. However, because Min Hee-jin keeps on damaging the value of Ador as a company, then the liquidation is probably going to be next to impossible, because now there's nothing to liquidate. You keep on damaging the brand, there's nothing to liquidate anymore. So if Ador's liquidation ends up, for example, becoming 30 billion won, that is the total liquidation value that they will get out of the company. And then Min Hee-jin says, give me 26 billion for my 13% stake, because that's what he intends to liquidate, 13%. And the value of that, he says, the value of 13% is 26 billion. But by now, the value of the entire company of Adore is only 30 billion. The court is probably going to say, get real. Be for real. So the court is probably going to say, nah, you can't do that. Like, there are people to pay, creditors to pay, and whatever. So they will probably just dismiss it, or ask Hybe to pay to offset the payment instead of directly buying Min Hee-jin shares. So in the end, the lawyer thinks that he's probably not, she can exercise the put option, but she's probably not going to get the amount that she wants because of her own doing, because she keeps on damaging the brand of Adore. Then Adore is worth nothing. Once they liquidate, there's nothing left. Basically, you can't force a company. A company can just declare bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is what we call it. What about It's plagiarism issue? So his question is like, who's gonna win? And the lawyer said it's really not a very important thing for the court. Like, it's not something that they need to rule. Primarily because, most likely because it's not considered like clearly It was the one who suffered damages, but the court doesn't have to, like, what is the court going to do about it? They can declare that It actually suffered any damages, but they don't have to ask the other party to pay any penalty, according to him. Okay, this is the lawyer talking, and he said that he's really not sure why Min Hee-jin filed a counterclaim for 5 billion won. He said he's not really sure about that. Okay, now this is now my point of view. um People are asking. So Old Shorts actually did a contest on their IG account, I think, asking their fans to give them a temporary name, or a name, most likely temporary, because they said they're not giving up on the name New Jeans yet. So people are asking, is it breach? Do know that I am not a lawyer. This is just me with all the entertainment business, whatever experience that I have. It is a breach because if the court recognizes the validity of their contract with Adore, then they shouldn't be doing any kind of business without the approval of Adore. If the contract actually has that, if the contract states that the five girls actually has to work for Adore, then they shouldn't be doing this. So it could be breach for as long as the court recognizes the validity of their contract. But more than that, I do feel at this stage, I feel like the actions that they're doing, it's just too juvenile for me. It's like I think Bang Shiuk was right to not say anything about this, to sort of just allow the lawyers to do their thing and spend his time on something more productive, because it's like so childish. I can't believe And I can say this very easily because it's not my money getting burned, right? um, Bang Luna is saying that I think it's like three stooges doing business. I think they would do better business. That's how I feel. It's so silly. I don't like who's giving you an advice to do all of these things. That's how I feel. Like I wouldn't, if I am the one to advise them, I wouldn't even know where to begin because everything is just so silly for me. Like why are you even going to risk? Let's just say you have a firm belief that the company is violating your right? So for example, if I'm New Jeans and I have this firm belief that the contract is terminated, that they are violating my rights, and that they really shouldn't be managing me, the contract shouldn't be valid anymore, I still wouldn't do it this way. I'm not going to just unilaterally declare the contract is invalid. I'm going to go my own way. Bye bye. I'm not going to do that. It's just so, I might ask the court for a temporary permit to allow me to work because this is my living, right? So I will ask the court, like, come on, let me work while we settle this matter. But I'm not just going to unilaterally say the contract is not valid. Like I don't know where they are getting this idea. Now, let me say this again. I cannot emphasize this enough. I do not take it against the girls. To this day, I believe that they're still brainwashed and that it's still that all the adult around them, everyone failed them, and that includes hybe for hiring minijin. So this is not their fault. They are so deep into her world that they are not thinking clearly. Okay, now I think at this stage hybe is just doing a CYA. Do you know what a CYA means? Do you know what it means in corporate world? This is a very, very important term. If you're going to work for any company, any corporation, this is one of the most important terminologies you need to know and practice all the time. It means cover your ass. Is cover your ass. That's what it is. That is what they're doing. They're just doing everything they can to make sure that the court sees they are doing everything they can to make it work. Like they need to be able to go to court and say we did this, all of this, we've done it and more, so you know that we have the best of intention. There are two things: best efforts and reasonable efforts. What they want is to be able to show the court we did our best effort. We gave it our best effort. And that means taking in good faith all reasonable steps. So this is a legal term, all reasonable steps to achieve the objective. Okay, so this is what they want to prove to court. They want to be able to go there and say, we have not left any single stone unturned. So it includes doing everything known to be usual, necessary, and proper for ensuring the success of the endeavor. Right now, their endeavor is to make the relationship work with New Jeans. So that's what I think at this stage, that's all they're trying to do. They just want to be able to go to the court and tell the judge, we have done everything we could and more to make it work. They are the ones who's not willing to do anything. Okay, reasonable efforts is just reasonable effort. Like, yep, this is like we did everything that is legal, legally required. What they want is best efforts. So I think they're just really in the CYA stage. They're just trying to cover their ass so that when now that they are in court, they just want to be able to prove to court that there is absolutely nothing that we have done, that we haven't done to make this relationship work. So I also think that to a certain extent, and I'm pretty sure it's happening, people are also losing interest in this entire case, primarily because BTS is starting to come back. Um, and people are now counting towards the return of BTS, right? So I think everyone is so focused on that they're not really concerned about what's going to happen here. I think at this stage, people are just thinking, like many Koreans are just like, oh, this is just another corporate case. Now people are just waiting for BTS to come back because they know. And then the other thing is, once BTS comes back, many other groups are going to make their comeback to try and ride onto the popularity and the press and the media coverage and the attention that BTS is going to get. That is why I think everyone should be careful, because she's going to do something again now that J Hope is going to release his album. We know he's going to release it March 7, and then he's going to do his concert. So there's she's planning something. I mean, if there's anything that we have seen, the pattern is very clear. Whenever BTS does something new, there she is behind them doing something else. So be very, very careful. And I think the best way is to do the usual thing that we do, and that is to absolutely ignore her and just focus on BTS. Let's not pay attention to whatever she wants to say. Let's just focus on BTS. So sad how MHJ is hiding behind them. It is, yeah. My heart still goes out to them because I honestly think they have a lot of potential. They have a lot more to give. I mean, they have done so much, they have achieved so much in such a short span of time. And I think they could do more if only they didn't get into this mess. And that's why that is what I keep on saying. Like, if there is real concern towards the girls, then the first thing that she would have done is to make sure that they do not get involved in here. The first thing that she would be telling the girls is that you stay put, you do what you need to do to make sure that you keep on going with your career. I will fight this fight and come back for you when everything is settled, but just stay put and do everything that you can. That is what should have happened. But instead, the five girls got dragged into this. Lara said, "You too nice, Fairy." Focus on BTS. Yes, just focus on BTS. Something is going to come. I don't know what she's going to be doing, but I am sure that she's going to do something. Don't pay attention to her, please. So remember that. Like, if there's anything, please, I beg you, when this happens, the first thing that you should do is post something positive, or if you can post on your social media, or if you can't post something positive, look for somebody who's posting something positive and hype that post. And you do a 3:1 for everyone. For every one negative thing that you're going to be seeing, support three. So we do more than what they are doing, because they're going to attempt something for sure. This tour of J-Hope is going to break records. He's going to break. Have you seen the seat plan? Like, he really is pushing it to the limits. Like, the seating, he's pushing it to the limits. Other acts would like close off like three-fourths of he's pushing it. Like, he's barely covering anything. So that this is going to break. I'm promising. And like the quality of the production, I as early as now, if you got a ticket in New York, I am so jealous already, because I am pretty sure, or hoping, that J. Cole is going to be there. And he's my favorite he's my favorite rapper of all time, by the way. So to see him with performing with J Hope, my God, like J. Cole is one of the big three in hip hop in like all time. So if he perform, it's going to be big. He's J Hope is just going to break records. So, and he won't be able to stand it, because this is just one member, and he's already hogging the limelight. Imagine once everybody else comes back. I think international media is more drawn now on Justin versus Blake thing, so no one is going to look at this. That's another entertaining thing. This Justin versus Blake thing is so entertaining. Um, Lovely. Can you please update on JK news nowadays? Is it true? I'm so confused. We talked about this in the beginning. Lovely. Anything that it didn't come from JK and or Hybe, don't pay attention to that, especially if it's a medical record or anything. Please respect his privacy. That has always been how we played it in the Bora land. We always knew where to stop. And Jungkook himself said it in one of his lives, like, don't cross the line. As much as he loves armies, and we know how much he loves armies, he has set a boundary. So we should respect that boundary. And it's the same boundary that you should put around you as well. Don't allow people to just distribute your medical records or talk about your private life. That is none of their business. Your private life is your business. So allow Jungkook to have his private life as well. Seeing him in Seoul in about a month. Oh, you got a ticket in Seoul. Wow, you're so lucky. Suga explained he liked the arena because the stage setup wouldn't have worked in a stadium. J Hope may feel the same. Jin's OST is lovely. For the stadium, maybe. I mean, I definitely, I've said this before, I definitely respect their choices, and I'll take what I can get, right? Like, if they decided to do a theater, I'd still be battling for a ticket. So I definitely appreciate their efforts, especially because we know that he is going to start as well preparing for the return of his brothers. So there's a lot on his plate. So for him to still do it means a lot. And I appreciate that. I definitely recognize it. I respect him for it. But I'm just like, it should have been a stadium. I'm just being a fan. Like, why not a stadium, right? You can fill that up. Like, I went into queue. I clicked that queue like 25 minutes before the start. And I was like 90,000 on the line. I'm like 90,000 on the line. Why is this not a stadium? That's how I felt. Because I feel like if there are 90,000 people on the line, at least like each one would be buying more than one ticket, right? That's a freaking stadium. Have tickets for 10 minutes to Chicago Theater next month. Ah, Temin. I'm glad it is an arena because we can see him better. True. True, that is the advantage. I was wondering the same thing. Should have been a stadium. He sell out of stadium. Any of them would sell out a stadium on their own. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not even doubting. I don't doubt that. Definitely. Same. I was around 50,000 crazy and in three cities. Yeah. I mean, I was posting on Patreon while I was going through a breakdown because I couldn't. Like, I think after about 15 minutes, I kind of knew I wasn't going to get tickets for New York. I was like, nah, this is not happening. So, Lara Sugar Stage is kind of huge. It has a lot of effects. Baka hindi pwedeng gawin here. Ah, that's why he didn't do Philippines. I didn't realize I missed BTS when I saw a short clip of his concert. I cried like a baby. Okay, before it's already an hour and a half. I'll just quickly do this was a request. I posted a video on the different idols who actually put up their own management companies. And many of them has actually failed. Many of them failed miserably. Some of them are barely surviving. So I don't know if you know Kang Daniel, but he's one of the most popular soloists in South Korea. For a while, I thought he was going to be the male IU in terms of popularity. I thought he's headed towards that direction. He was also the ex-boyfriend of my my bias in Twice, which is Gio. I thought they were a cute couple. And I also like I did not pry about it. I just read it because they kind of sort of went public about it. So I was like, oh, they're a cute couple. Okay. So Kang Daniel actually put up his own company. And then to everybody's surprise, after 3 years, he filed a police report suing the majority shareholder of his agency, Connect Entertainment. And as everyone was so shocked, Pinayon say, I did not know he dated Gio. Yeah, he did. I was like, they were such a cute couple. That's why I was like, oh, I hope they end up together. Anyway, but I was more concerned about Gio, as I've said, because Twice is my favorite girl group member, and she's my bias in Twice. So everyone was so shocked that he filed the police report, sued the company, and then this freaking company. What happened was the majority shareholder cheated him of 14 million, I think 14 or 40 million. So he lost, like, the majority shareholder sort of spent 40 million of his of the money of the company, and he was the sole No, there were other artists, but he was the biggest artist in that company. And then he also, the majority shareholder, actually managed to get in his personal bank account and spend $14 million of his money. That's how bad it went. So it's like, what happened? Everyone was praising him for going his own way and not signing up for any other agency and just putting up his own. Because, like, you need, everyone is all about giving the artist power over his own music and his own creatives. And then this happened, right? And then you have Yolin. She still has her agency, so she did not renew with Sista. That's another favorite of mine, just because they are great vocalists. So there were four members in Sista, and they all decided not to renew their contract with Starship, and she put up her own agency. And when she decided to do that, she still is in good terms with all of her members and with Starship. It's just that she said she really wants to test her, like, just do her own thing and be able to perform the way she wants to perform, release music that she wants to release. And then in one interview, she actually said that it hasn't been very, very profitable for her. And primarily, it was like everything that she's earning, she's just using to pay her employees. And even worse is that everything that she has saved and earned from her days on in Sesta, when it was still her and the other three girls, is all gone. The money is all gone because she makes it a point to pay all of her employees on time. Okay. So this is a former member of Winner. Now he has a different story. I think he had a Nam Taeyun is the name. He had a conflict with YG Entertainment, and he left YG Entertainment. Creative differences. He decided to put up his own band and his own company, South Beach, something like that, and South Border something. But it was a band. And he said that just like it's the same story as Yolin, although it's a little worse. So he spent all of his money, everything that he's earned from YG, from his days in Winner, he spent all of that to maintain the company. And he's also now in debt. He's like $650,000 in debt or something like that. He's deep in debt, all because he's spending for everything. So whenever they go, if they have a gig, he needs to hire the van, makeup artists, managers, the instruments, transportation, gas, everything. He needs to pay for all of that. So they also have a PR person. He pays for all of that. So he said it's all gone. Like, he is in debt. Yunmi Ray and Tiger JK. Do you remember these two people? They collaborated first. Tiger JK collaborated with RM, and then Yunmi Ray actually collaborated with J Hope. So they are pioneers of hip hop in South Korea. And their former manager, so the person, they put up their own agency, but they took somebody to be the CEO so that they can concentrate on the creative side of it. And the CEO ran away with their money, $41 million. So they were like, they didn't know, like, so there was a time when they were so hot, like it was just all about hip hop hip hop artists in Korea. And but their manager kept on telling them, oh, we don't have money. So they just kept on taking in work, and and then one day they just decided, okay, I'm going to look into this because it's so suspicious that we almost don't have a law and we're still in debt. And that's when they discovered that the CEO that they hired was actually spending the money. And then worse, they were, I think, like, his father died, and it was during that time when they had to go through auditing. He couldn't do it because he had to attend to his father, so they couldn't get anything back, in other words. But it was awful, like 14 million. But I think they have recovered, or at least they are recovering. But they're such good people. Their former agency used to manage Yisang, which is one of my favorite Korean hip hop group. Well, they're a duo, Gary and Gil. And even Gary and Gil said that they're such nice people that they would actually take only 25% of their share, and the rest goes to the artist. So they're very much for the artist, and this happened to them. So one thing people don't understand is that if you're going to put up your own company, and let's just say there's an existing company already and you're just expanding to the US, for example, the expenses, the amount of money it's going to take to actually get that to work is a lot. For example, a PR company. So when you expand to the US, and this is the thing that Lisa, um, what's it, Jenny, don't remember their names, Lisa and Jenny, and even Rose, this is what they're doing. They're expanding to the US. So they have an existing company and they're just expanding to the US. They definitely need a publicist. And a publicist is probably going to cost you, just for a retainer, 10,000 to 40,000 a month, especially if you're like, for the level of of relationships that they want to establish. They want to get someone really good, and that's at the minimum 10,000 a month. 10,000 is like, that's like small, like for small names. And if you're a Rose or a Jenny, you're probably going to go with like 40,000 a month. Putting up a press junket, that's already anywhere between 20,000 and 200,000. The bigger the press junket, the more expensive it is. The press junket is when the artist actually sits down for an interview, and then all the reporters come in. They have like 3 minutes or 5 minutes to ask you questions. That's a press junket. Okay. Because you need to pay for the hotel, for camera, security, permits, get in touch with all of these reporters, give them gifts and all of that. So that's easy, easy 20,000. Okay. And then you need to pay for a retainer for a law firm, or hire a lawyer. If you're paying a retainer, a lawyer, and you're paying a retainer, 5,000 is really a steal. Usually, lawyers work on billable hours, and their rate is like 200, 300, 500 per hour. That's how expensive they are. So if they're going to review a contract for you, for example, if you have a show and there is an agreement, or you have a brand deal and there is an agreement, you do need to send that to a lawyer for the lawyer to review. And if it takes the lawyer 3 hours to review, then you're going to have to pay. And the rate of the lawyer is, let's just say, 200 per hour. Then you're going to have to pay the lawyer $600 just for reviewing. If you call that lawyer and you speak for 30 minutes, if his rate is 200, then you pay that lawyer 100. It is expensive. Okay. And then you need to hire a money manager, especially if you're already earning a lot. One of the most popular business managers in the US that is being used by many celebrities is Altman and Greenfield, and Selvagi LLP. So it is a law firm. They have lawyers within there, but their specialty is actually managing the money of their clients. You have to read an article. They gave an interview, and they talked about like some of the biggest problems of celebrities when it comes to money management. They said that it's usually overspending. Like, artists aren't aware of how much money they actually have. They think that if their album gets to number one, or their song gets to number one of Billboard Hot 100, that they're already like swimming in money. That's not the case. So usually that's their biggest problem. It's a good article. I'll paste it in the description box once this is uploaded. And then you need an agent. An agent here, or they usually call it the manager in South Korea. The agent is what secures your work. So they look for brand deals, projects, guestings, and they submit songs for syncs. Syncs is when you can actually earn a lot. So that's important, because money actually comes from, the biggest sources of money comes from brand deals and concerts. So if they get you a lot of brand deals, then the more money you're going to have. And then they submit songs for syncs. Syncs would be when your song is actually being used for movies, TV shows, commercials, and other things. So each time the music is played, you get paid. So if, for example, BTS, sorry. So you know that Friends was actually used by Eternals, a Marvel movie, and it was written by Jimin, produced by Jimin, and performed by Jimin and V. So that's a sync. So someone got their song and put it in a movie. So they get an outright fee, and then each time that movie is viewed, they get a certain amount. That's called royalties or residuals. So that usually it used to be like that used to like be really really big. But when it goes into Netflix, so each time that is viewed, you get paid. So usually like for years you're going to have a recurring income just because of that. So you do need an agent that will put your songs into consideration for syncs, and they usually coach you on what kind of songs to write in order to enhance your chances of getting a sync. So it has to be simple, heads like there has to be a hook in your song so that the show can just get that hook and use that constantly. Like for those of you who are fans of Friends, the series, like Friends, the sitcom, um, everyone knows that first line, right? Like, no one told me like it's gonna be okay. So that you have like a specific part in your let's talk. So you there's a specific part in the song that is a hook that they can actually use. And then for Dawson's Creek, it's that I don't want to wait for my life to be over. So so you always have to have a hook. So they coach you on what kind of song to sing or write and release in order to increase your chances of having a sing. Okay. Luckily, BTS co-owns their music. Correct, they do co-own their music, especially now. Okay. So usually an employer. So if you're an agency, for example, you're an idol and you put your own management company. The truth is that for every employee you have, you spend twice as much of the salary. So if an employee is getting paid 10,000, this is just an example. The employee is actually getting paid, let's just say $100,000 a year. The cost to the employer is actually double that. So I'm paying about 200,000 a year in order to keep one employee who's getting paid 100,000 a year, because there are taxes, insurance, expenses, administrative costs, more taxes, more taxes, more taxes. So and incidentals as well. So it's not cheap. So imagine, for example, if a a company has 10 employees and each employee is getting paid $50,000 a month, or sorry, $50,000 a year, times 10, that's 500,000. You multiply it by 2, that's a million. That would be the money that the company needs to make yearly in order to break even. So, well, not even break even. You need to, because you need to pay taxes, more taxes. So, that is the minimum that you need. You need to earn more from that. So, Lisa, Jenny, Yolin, I think what's his name? Tiger JK has a new label. So all of them, if they have managers, agents, assistants, all of them are getting paid. So you just estimate how much they're getting paid, multiply it by 2, and then add probably like 30%. That's what they need to, the cash flow that they need on a yearly basis to maintain it. So art and business rarely mix. A lot of artists don't want to talk about or think about business. Also, there's a lot of evil things, not evil, but a lot of harsh things that you need to do as a business owner if you have your own business that artists don't necessarily like doing. Firing people. I've mentioned to you before, I've had to fire people even if they haven't done anything wrong, simply because I realize I don't need them anymore. And it is hard, especially if the employee is kind and nice and hardworking. But what can you do? Like, you need to fire in order to grow, because you're going to think like, okay, if I fire you, I can invest my money somewhere else. So that a lot of artists don't like, because many artists are actually sensitive, so it doesn't usually mix well. So that those are the reasons many idols or many artists actually don't work as a businessman. You just need a certain kind of sensitivity for you to make it work, and not many don't have it. So that's also why many of these idols actually end up like Kang Daniel, getting cheated off like $14 million of their money because they're not watching their back right. I know that there is a celebrity in the Philippines. Oh, there are Filipinos here. There's a celebrity in the Philippines who got like cheated of like $100 million, right? What's his name? He's also a popular actor and singer, and he used to be like in a love team. And he built, so he put up his own label. It was doing well. He decided to get a partner, and the partner treated him of $100 million or 100 million pesos, or maybe I don't know. But okay, do you have questions? Rosie, I was too far back in the queue, didn't get ticks, but my friend got then. Oh, okay. That's why Suga said that he didn't want to have an agency. He said he didn't want to be responsible for lives of other people. But I think if you James Reed, yeah, that's the name, James Reed. He's a good-looking guy. So somebody cheated him off like his money. I'm going to show you how he looks like. So here. He's Filipino good looking. That's how Filipino good look Filipino standard. So as he's a very popular actor. He used to be in like in a love team with another actress, and then I think he went solo or something. I don't follow, but yeah, he's like very good looking. And then he put up his own label, got a partner, and then the partner spent like 100 million of his own money and said young. Okay, so that I think is what one of the brightest and smartest things that Jin actually did is to get a partner for his IGN, for his IGN business. Because then he's not shouldering everything on his own. He has a partner who's been in business before, who has an established brand, so he kind of already knows what he's doing. Um, so I think for Jin it's going to work. And also he has a like his family is into business as far as we know. We don't know a lot about his family, but if the clues or the rumors are true, then his family's into business. So it's good that he got a partner. I also think keeping it low key. I have a clue. I don't know this for sure. I do have a clue. I have a not a clue, but a guess that many of the other members of BTS are actually into business. Like I'm sure they have their own businesses. So it's good if they have a partner, because then the partner can actually really do the day to day while they look after their craft. His partner, Eva said his partner from Korea. Yeah, the partner of this guy, James Reed, the one who got cheated like of 18 million of his money. His partner was from Korea. The Bio Explorer said True Jin picked a really good partner that he already gets along well. KG Leia said honest mistakes are fine. They can be opportunities to learn. By Wei Yoongi's back 10 days after Jimin and Jungkook. By the way, Yoongi's back 10 days. Yes. I'm trying not to think about it because I'm going to just start losing my shit. So I want to wait. Like, first, I want to be like fully present for J Hope. I want to be, I want to hype everything that he's going to do. I can't wait for the release of his album and, of course, his tour. And I'm going to watch. So I know that I have tickets. So Jin is Amajin Lol. Do the Blackpink girls have companies that back them in their agency? They put up their own agencies, like they have their own companies that take care of their solo promotions. I won't be surprised if they have investors, because as I've said, this is like so expensive to put up your own company, is very very expensive. So I won't be surprised if they have investors. They haven't mentioned anything about it. All they said is that they have their own agency. Jimmy said that he bought in ruins and later developed as real estate. Yeah, he bought way back. He bought way back a long time ago. And by now, I think they're already developing. Like he bought it really cheap, and I think he's gonna sell once everything is developed. Did I miss Anne Lives? Did I miss the Big Bang versus New Jeans discussion? I was here for New Jeans, but didn't see anything with Big Bang. I haven't discussed Big Bang. I don't think I have the time. It's already an hour 53. I can show you a little bit, but this is like I'm supposed to show you more. I'll show you just a little bit here. One second. A lot of people were asking about whether or not is like how big were they really, because a lot of people give them credit for being the most popular and the most successful. I've never been like a huge fan of Big Bang, just because I don't like their it's not their music is not for me. I don't have anything against them. I actually like Taeyang. Of all the members, it's Taeyang that I like. I watched him. I watched I think one or two of their concerts here, probably one. He is my favorite member. But are they like groundbreakers or whatever? They were the ones who really established the brand of YG. Okay, I'll show you some numbers in a bit. They were the ones who really established the brand of YG. And YG is really good at swag. Like if you look at their performances, it's what they do. It's one line, two lines of live singing, and then everything is swag. And that's their by the way, I have nothing against it. That is their signature. If that is what they want to do and people are consuming it, all good. But for me, that is not artistic superiority, and that certainly didn't change anything in the artistic landscape of K-pop. So, but they were extremely popular. So this is the earnings of YG during their reign. So they kind of started 2006 all the way until 2012, 2013, 2014. So this is overseas market, and this is primarily this is Asia, and then this is domestic. So you can see that they made a lot of movement during the last 2 years of their active years. But it is primarily Asia, not really. It's not really North America or Europe. So this is their annual revenue from 2012 to 2024. So this is 2005 until 2012, and then this is 2012 until 2024. As you can see, right on their last year as a group actively, they earned 98.11 million, and then everything went downhill from there. So what is my point here? A real groups that have a huge influence will carry their company even in their inactive years. They didn't do that. That's one. Second, if you look at the breakthrough in other markets like Japan, it was really TVXQ. And if you look at their numbers, oh, I didn't put it here, sorry. But if you look at their numbers, as early as 2013, 2014, they were being outsold by like Shiny and EXO, even in Japan. YG though is very good at PR, and we already know this. They don't hold back when it comes to lying. And there was a huge post, I think it was all K-pop, where fans actually came out with receipts and showed how good of a liar, how good of a marketer, I'm sorry, how good of a marketer YG is when it comes to these things. So what happened was they would, I'll present this better in my next live stream with all the pictures and stuff. So for example, YG would close the top floor, the top level of a dome. They would close it. They would put a black cloth on it. TVXQ would never do that because they're so popular in Japan. It actually was just late. I think it was just several years ago that BTS started outselling them in Japan. That's how big they are. And they would have major festival in Japan where they will be closing. That's a no-no in Japan because it's usually a local act that is reserved to doing that. But they would do that. Just that's just how big they were in Japan. So anyway, for TVXQ, when they do dome tours, let's just sell out all the tickets. What YG would do is cover the topmost portion or several portions of the audience, and then they would say, If TVXQ says they sold, like, this is just an example, they sold like 100,000 tickets, they would say T, Big Bang sold 110. I was like, how can you sell 110,000 when the topmost portion is actually closed when it was Big Bang and it was open when it was TVXQ? And there were pictures, a lot of pictures that prove that. So that has been the trick. And as you know, they use the same strategy with Blackpink. So that has been the trick of YG. That has been their marketing play. And it has done a lot. But when it comes to numbers, when you look at the actual numbers, they're nowhere near close to the top. They are so good in marketing. That's why they look so glamorous. They look like they're changing the industry and all, even though, like, they're not really. It is true that I think starting second album or third album, G Dragon, GD, started getting involved in the writing, but then he got into a lot of plagiarism scandals. Florida was actually the biggest one. And this is how brilliant YG is, okay? So the Florida plagiarism was so obvious. If you listen to the two songs, you will know, my God, this is a swipe. Like, this is an absolute swipe. And then what YG did was actually ask Florida to work with GD. And if you would observe, like, the interviews that Florida gave, he never said that he did not plagiarize me. He just said, like, oh, he did well or something like that. But that was like a great move for YG, like, to stop this, because it was so obvious. If you search on YouTube, it's still there. You would know that it's a swipe. But they got Florida to work with GD, and that sort of quieted everything. So YG has always been very, very good at that. So my point being, they are good at marketing, and that has took them far, really far. That's one. Second, Big Bang is successful, no doubt. Full stop. They're just not the most successful. Okay, so I will. Doll Baby said he paid them off. Yeah, if you go on YouTube and then you search that Florida plagiarism, you will see it's still there, along with other plagiarism accusations and stuff. So he did that a lot. And then the other thing is that I just like, between him and TOP, I like TOP's flow better. I like his rhymes better. Um, so yeah, I mean, I like the group. It's just that I don't consider them to be the best. They just, like, the swag is so, they're just so they're good at that. And just observe the performances. Even in the last performance of GD, what was that? GD and Dea. I think when they did the reunion, the three of them, like, you can see he doesn't rap a lot. He doesn't do live a lot. He would do like one, two lines and then, like, swag the rest of the way. but but that, that has worked for them, and that's fine if it works. I meant didn't get jail time. They keep comparing GD to God, even on a recent magazine cover. It's all media. That's all marketing. That's all talking points, right? TOP just did a Netflix interview for Squid Game 2. He's very charming. I I feel bad for him. It's just all he made wrong choices. I mean, in the US, marijuana is nothing. Like, it's legal here, so it wouldn't be an issue. But unfortunately, he's not American, he's Korean. So he had to submit to the laws of South Korea. And he got caught. Like, someone snitched him. He got snitched by the girl, his girl, or I don't know if the girl is his girlfriend, but someone that he spent time with, I guess. So, but had it not happened to him, he had so much potential. Um, I think, I really think I like his flow better. I like his voice better. In Paris, it is noticeable. Yeah, so any performance is like that for him. For them, they would do like one, two line and then swag more, and then one, two lines again, then swag again. And it works. I mean, as I've said, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just not for me. That's the point. That's not how I like my performers. If I pay for something to watch, I better get something more than just swagging. So, Cali love EXO. I'm hooked for your next live. So my next live will be Wednesday. Oh, and by the way, anyway, next week I'm going to be traveling, so I might do my live from my hotel room because I'm attending a conference. Is there anybody from Las Vegas here? Taeyang is capable of better. Taeyang is of all of them, I think he's the best performer. Um, and the song that made him Eyes No Slips, right? I mean, it's really one of the best songs ever. Full stop. Like it's not even I'm not saying like best songs by a K-pop artist or whatever. No, it's just one of the best songs ever written. That's how good it is. Like that Taeyang is the man. He's the man. He's the like yeah. I feel like BB performance nowadays is underwhelming. It has always been underwhelming for me, especially lately. Um, yeah, like the last song of GD Par, I think I mentioned this before. I think I've mentioned this in one of my live stream. I think it's more like a light. It wasn't meant to be like a super serious song. I think it was meant to be like a light song that you can just listen to. It wasn't meant to. I think he achieved what he wanted. It was supposed to be a light, fun song rather than a hard hitting rap song. So if you look at it that way, the song is good for that purpose. YG really did a disservice to Big Bang members. The culture of YG contributed to a lot of the issues with their development. Taeyang is the only one who managed to stay out of trouble. Yeah, and I think it's a good thing that he got married with her. I think the girl is really good for her. What's her name? Min Yorin? Min Yorin? I think the girl really did good for her. Like having a family, having something stable. And I mean, even GD stayed out of trouble outside of the plagiarism. I think he got caught like smoking pot, which he denied. He said he was like someone's handed him a cigarette and he smoked it because he did not know it was pot. But the last one, he was cleared of that. Like he submitted himself to so many tests and he proved that he has not smoked. So that part, just let's just make it clear that he's cleared of that. So largely he has also been able to stay out of trouble. Um, so it's really Sungri and TOP. Although TOP, I think it was overblown. But again, they have their own laws. If it was here, it's like it's pot, you know. But it's Korea, it's illegal. So he shouldn't have done it because it's illegal. For me, GD is just meh, but I respect the others like him. Yeah, I mean, you know, the swagger is there. So I think with GD, all the stuff in the military hurt his confidence and he never really got it back. Maybe. You mean like everything that happened with his band members or just his own military experience? I actually started K-pop during second gen, but how it feels different watching second gen again. When did I start? I think I started second gen. Um, when I started, so my entry point was actually drama, variety shows, and then K hip hop. So that's why I know of Tiger JK and Yisang, Supreme Team, Amoeba, Dynamic Duo, um, all of those stuff because they were my entry point. And so, and then K-pop, I was just like, oh, it's fun because they would guest in Running Man, which is my favorite variety show in South Korea. So many of them would come into Running Man. So sometimes I would check out their music. Some of them are good. And then I found BTS. I know GD for being stylish, not because of his rap. I'm not into his style either. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not for me. Thank you. I will hope to see Jin perform there. My two cousins introduced me to Super Junior and Shiny. I like Shiny. I super like Shiny. In Super Junior, I like mm, I like the leader and Unyuk, Unyuk, and what's his name? Letter D, the partner of Unyuk. I thought you were going to say he was just holding it for a friend. My entry point was my Sassy Girl movie. Thank you, Fairly, and good night. Well, that reminds me, it's already, I love Shiny. It's already 2 hours and 9 minutes. I don't want to hold everybody off any longer. I know some of you are off to bed, some of you are off to work. But thank you for joining me. I will continue this. I have two more topics that I left out actually. So I'll do that next live. And then I'll update you on my novel. I'm supposed to be posting it here already. There is progress. Oh. So I'm going to start interviewing people, experts in the field, directors, writers, musicians, agents. And my first two interviews would be lawyers and an actor. And I'm also going to interview a filmmaker who joins festivals. So if you have any questions, you want anything that you're curious about, you want to know about, like copyright, contracts, any legal stuff, um, in like how you get things done or whatever, send them to me and I will ask them. But most likely, I will be interviewing the other one probably Friday, and then the other one maybe week after next. But both of them, one is an entertainment lawyer, and then the other one is an entertainment lawyer slash an actor. So if you have questions, send them to me, and then I'll send you next time. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you. Bye.